playing with the ghost.
Recently, the trailer for A Quiet Place Part 2 was, recently dropped, and I have not looked at the trailer yet. I've not had a chance to check it out, but I needed to kind of get on board with the story. So I watched the first film, A Quiet Place, and really was quite a film when it comes to horror, thrills, and edge of your seat type of a movie. The first 35 to 40 minutes, not even one word was uttered. They only were using sign language, and of course, it's because they needed to do so because any kind of sound would draw the attention of these creatures. And you kind of see throughout the film, you see moments of where you see a chalkboard, and actually, it was kind of like one of those boards, marker boards, and it shows the things that you need to know about these creatures, that they are attracted by sound and other things. And then on the other board, which will come into place later on, is that what is their weakness? The way. But let's go back to the beginning where it starts. We see, I forget what the day was 80 something, 83rd, 85th week. It was one of the 80th weeks in there, and it basically showed Emily Blunt and her kids, also John Krasinski, and they had 3 kids. They had a boy, just 2 boys and a girl, and they're going through a store. There's medication there, and looks like the boy needed some medicine, and she gives the medicine to the boy. And then they're on their way, but beforehand, the youngest boy, gets a hold of a airplane, and John Krasinski, he stops the boy right there, takes the plane from him, and removes the batteries, and explains to him in sign language that it's too noisy. You can't have this. Now they're on their way, and his daughter, does the whole, don't tell no one, and gives him the plane back. The parents are already outside, and the other kid is outside, and the daughter neglects to at least to tell him not to use the batteries or put the batteries aside. And we know what's going to happen. They're on a bridge, about to cross the bridge, and the boy is way in the back. He's like in the back, bringing up the rear. And somehow he put the batteries in correctly. I'm not saying that kids aren't smart enough to do that, but it's just like that. He was able to put the batteries in correctly right away, and of course the airplane makes sound, and John Krasinski knows that he better get to his boy and try to save him. And it's just right when he was about to get right to where his boy was, his son gets snatched up by one of the creatures, and of course, we know what happens. The boy was killed, and then we see the daughter wake up, and apparently it was a dream, or and this is like week 400 and something, now. So that was some time ago, and she was just dreaming the whole thing, and she blames herself throughout the entire film. She feels that also that John Krasinski's character, her father, doesn't love her. There are instances where they get into a fight, like she wants to go with her dad, and he who's going to go and train and teach his son how to deal with these creatures in order to not only to protect himself but also to save his mother and his or protect his mother, I should say. And Emily Blunt's character, the mother, is pregnant, and so when it came to that part, I was always thinking to myself, what are they gonna do when the baby's born? Because apparently, I'm thinking that the whole thing with the creatures and all that just happened maybe in the recent years, and their kids were already born. Because I'm thinking, like, what did they do, or what can they do in order to kind of keep the monsters from hearing the baby crying? And we kind of see a little bit of a solving of that issue later on, which I will get to. And the way that the movie was, it's like, this is how you build tension. This is how you really, really just do a kind of film where it's like you don't need, parlor tricks. We don't need special effects in order to make the atmosphere scary. It's just complete silence, and you're just anticipating what's going to happen next. What kind of noise are we going to hear? And of course, the noise that we hear, of course, is the dropping of what they're playing. Was that Monopoly? And then they had like loud things in order, for their to represent the little game pieces. And the daughter, she accidentally knocks over the lamp, and it causes a little fire. Their dad was able to put that out, and then now they know what's going to happen next is that these creatures are going to come along. I'm thinking, like, there always was just one. I noticed that there was always just one, except for that last part when a bunch of them came. But throughout the time, it was almost like it was just one creature coming, almost like it's a scout, like it's the one that will probably grab whatever made a noise and bring them back to their hive or their colony, whatever. And let's talk about the creatures. The creatures really really well rendered. I mean, not well, because I don't know if it's all CGI or if there's practical effects. Is there a mechanical thing like with Stan Winston, who did Terminator and Alien and all that stuff? Was it something like that where they used practical effects, or was it CGI? But I liked the look of this creature. I liked the way it was built. I mean, you see in the side of, and it's very, very prominent. They show how they hear. It's like they have on the side of their head, it's like a big hole, kind of a big canal kind of a thing, and I guess that's how they're able to hear so far away. They have that really, really just, it looked very sophisticated, the way they evolved to have that type of a I guess you call it a canal, an ear canal or something, And what I liked about that is the fact that because the father was making earpieces or ways to hear sound and hear things for his daughter, I guess, because he was trying to convince her to wear it, and she wouldn't, because she was upset that her dad wasn't taking her to go and train, but he put it in her hand anyway. And then later on, she did put them in. And she was able to discover that, especially, this was after, like, what happened was when the mom went to bring the laundry up from the attic, or the basement, I should say, it got caught on a nail. And she was able to pull it off there. I was thinking, why don't you go down there and pull it off and look? But, it was actually key to what happened later on. She pulled it off, and then we see an exposed nail that's sticking up. I don't know how the nail was sticking up like that. I don't know if there was another 2x4 or 2x2, whatever that was on top of that, and maybe it got taken off somehow. I don't know, because the nail was sticking up. They pretty much nailed it from underneath, and it was sticking out to the top. And then when she came back down later on, we know this was going to happen. She stepped on the nail and she dropped something out of her hand. It shattered, and of course, what that happens. What's going to happen? Here comes the creature, and just utter chaos. We see. She's able to turn on this luminescent type of a red light, and I guess that's a warning that in case someone is away, that I guess if they're away and they see that, they're not gonna go to the house, because that's kind of like the sign that they're here, kind of a thing. And she did that, and she was trying to hide and evade this thing, and she ended up in the bathtub, and she was bleeding out from the nether regions there, her area there, because all this commotion and all of this, I guess you say, all of the stress and all of the excitement and everything caused her to prematurely give birth. And she was in the bathtub, and John Krasinski, you know, saw this, saw the light and everything, and he's heading towards the thing, and he has his son, shoot off a rocket that apparently, definitely, in order to draw the creature away from the house. He pretty much said, "Protect your mother." He didn't want to do it. He was very scared, and it's understandably so. He was scared. So he goes off, and right when she screams, the mother, because she's giving birth, right after she screams, then the rocket is set off. And then John Krasinski, with a shotgun in hand, gets to the house and sees that the blood trail that's in the bathtub, and thinks the worst, that she may have been taken away. And then we see a hand slam up against the shower door, and his wife's there. She's giving birth. You hear the baby cooing, and they're able to get to a cellar type of thing, or underneath. The baby is really getting really restless and is crying, and they get to this underground, or kind of like a basement thing. It was like a cellar type of thing, and they were able to get in there. The creature knew they were there, but it was like just going around and stuff, and a lot of chaos going on. You even had the kids who got lost. They got separated from their parents, and what happens is that they're on top of this what ends up later on top of a grain silo. It looked like where there's grain and everything. And what happened was she wanted to leave, because he was trying. The son was saying that Dad's coming. He's gonna come for us. And she, of course, still kind of hating her dad, said that no, he's gonna come for you. And when son, her brother, goes around to talk to her again, falls into through this grate or thing. It kind of opens up, and he falls in, and he's in this grain silo, and he's starting to sink like quicksand. And she's trying to tell him, don't move, because if you move, it's just like in quicksand. If you move too much, you'll sink even faster. And then a piece of the metal that he fell through, the metal that closed that closes, that covers the top part of the grain silo, fell down. And I think she wants him to try to grab onto it, to get on top of it, so that but he couldn't reach for it. He was actually trying to reach for the flashlight. And then she decides to jump in, and then she pushes the metal cover to him. He's able to grab onto it, but then she slips in, and she totally slips underneath, and he goes to grab her, able to pull her up on top. But then one of the creatures, as soon as they're safe on top of that metal grate, the metal cover, one of the creatures come in and start slashing at him. These things got real sharp, razor blade type appendages. It kind of reminds me of Alien. They were able to just slash through anything, even metal. And like I was saying before, she was able to find a way, because because before they went in there, she was in it looks like a corn maze kind of thing, or those and stuff. And she was there, and one of the creatures was behind her, and she figured out to turn the frequency up on her hearing aid, the thing that her dad gave her, and it caused the creature to to screech in agony, and it just flew off, went away. Same thing here, did the same thing, and the creature went away. They saw there was a hole. I believe that's a hole that the creature burrowed out. So they were able to go through. They didn't show them going through there, but apparently that's what they did, and they ended up with their parents. And I like the way how they were able to figure out, how to, what is their weakness? It's like the daughter finally goes down to the basement because before her dad didn't want her to go down there, and when she went down there, to be with her mother, and the thing about it is that, John Krasinski's character is out there, and what happens is that, because there's so much going on in this movie, and it was really just so chaotic, but in a good way, and it really, really kept your attention, even though, we had to go through 30-something minutes of complete silence, and I like that because it built the tension of the film. They're dealing with a creature that's inside that basement with them, and she's able to figure out, she already knows that they don't like the high frequency. When you put it up to the highest you can, and it was almost like I likened it to like a dog whistle. You couldn't hear it, but they could. And she figured out, because she did it first, it kind of knocked them back. It still kept coming. So she put it in up against a kind of like a, what do you call that? A mic. And she turned the amplifier or the thing up as high as it could, and then she turned it on the earpiece, and you can see the creature, like its face. It just started. It almost like it had these kind of like like not shells, but kind of like these, what do you call those? Scales on its face, and then they would kind of like when you open the blinds, right? And then they kind of flare up. It's like with his face was like they'd flare up, but it kept flaring up and flapping, and it caused that thing to fall back, and you think it died, And then it comes back, and then she, like I said, she did it first, and then, yeah. I'm kind of going all over the place, but yeah, she did it first, and then she turned it all the way up, and she put it right up against the mic, and it really knocked him back, and it seemingly killed him. But then, just like almost like those jump scares, it comes back up, and the whole time, Emily Blunt has a shotgun, at the ready, ready to shoot it. It jumps up, charges towards him, and she ends up, pretty much shooting his head off. It kind of stirred a little bit. I thought, oh God, here we go. It's going to come back up again, and then it didn't. But before this, the unfortunate thing was, what happened was there was a situation where the kids were in the car, and John Krasinski knew that the kids were going to be killed. I mean, there was no getting around that. The creature was on top of the truck that they had jumped into. And earlier in the movie, there was an old man who was very distraught because he found, I guess, his wife. She had been sliced open, and her innards and everything was all out for display. Eyes are open in shock. The old lady. So she died excruciatingly painful death. And he was like, you could tell John Krasinski knew that old man was going to cry, was going to scream, and he does. And of course, what happens is that John Krasinski and the kids ran off, and they ran for safety right behind a tree, and then they see the old man get knocked down, and of course, you know what happens to him. So he decides to make the ultimate sacrifice, and he does the same thing, and he screams. And then we see him you don't see him, but through seeing and looking at the expression of the kids, especially the daughter, that he got taken away, and of course he's dead. He's gonna be killed shortly. So at the end, they're in that cellar, like I said. They fought off and they killed this creature. And then we see a bunch of these creatures finally, not only just one, but a bunch of them coming. And then she takes those hearing aids, and she again she turns it way up, the amplifier or whatever you call it, puts it up against the mic, and then and then she does that, and then Emily Blunt puts the rifle up, shotgun up, ready in ready position, and then that's how it ends. What I think about the film, it was really well done, and it's surprisingly that John Krasinski not only is the one that stars in this film, but he also produced it, he wrote it, and he directed it. And very good job. This is a guy that, we know him from TV and we know him from other stuff, and it's like, guy really is a great director, and he knows how to pace a movie. This thing really was well paced. It could have easily have been boring. It could have easily have put people to sleep because there was no, nothing. There's nothing. There was nothing. Like, I had to like turn up the volume and go, wait, is the volume down? What happened? But it was just, there was no sound because of course they had to be quiet. And then you hear when the daughter knocked over that oil lamp, that's the first noise pretty much we hear. And that's like, and then we don't hear them talking until, the what happened with when he took him to go training. And I got this right away, and I knew this is what the reason why he was there, because he wanted to show his son. His son was very scared, didn't want to make noise. They caught a fish, and he didn't want him to cut the fish because that would make noise. But he says, listen to the ocean, listen to the lake here, the river. It's really like, it was like noisy, and the pounding of the water and stuff like that. And he told him that if you're in a place that the sound is louder, they won't hear the smaller sounds. There's even a point when he was on the other side and he screamed out. His son was still scared, and assuring him that they can't hear it. If they can't hear it, then they can't hear it, then you're okay, you're safe. There was even a moment when they were down. It was only her. It was only Emily Blunt's character with the baby. The baby was actually. That's what he did, like in order to stifle the baby, to kind of quiet it. He put an oxygen mask over it and put it in a box so that it would stifle the sound. And then what happened was that it filled with water, and basically it was just because they needed to run the water, and she had to go real, because one of the creatures got in there, and she had to really go slowly. She had to go quietly, not make any sound. Scooped up the baby. The creatures kind of sensed that, and what happened is that she went through like this waterfall of water, right behind it, so she could be behind it and be dry, and the water's falling in front of her. And I guess the noise kept the baby's cries from being heard. And so the creature was walking around, didn't see it, and that's right there is clever, you know what I mean? Right there, that right there is great writing, like to be able to do something like that, where you're like, how is it that you're going to keep this creature from hearing you with other noise? And then the way these creatures can be killed is high frequency of sound. They can hear sound, but they can't take it if you put it at a highest possible decibel, And good job to John Krasinski and those behind this film. It really was a great film. And I'm surprised that I did not go see this. I was very intrigued by the trailer, the trailer. And I was thinking, wow, I'm going to check this film out. I saw it in the theater. I saw the trailer. And then I just kind of fell away, and I just didn't think about it anymore, because there's so many other things coming out, so many trailers that you forget, unless you mark it down. And I kind of like forgot about it. And then when the trailer dropped for, part 2 of this film, I said, oh, that's right, yeah. And then I said to myself, I got to go watch that film first, and then I'll do the trailer reaction. So this is my review, my thoughts on A Quiet Place. And despite the fact that it was quiet those first 30-something minutes, it picked up, and it was really like, I love the action, I love the intensity, the edge of your seat type of feel on this. And it's like, goes to show that, you don't really need all that, those, like I said, parlor tricks and all this other stuff to bring up some scary tension and horror. This did it, and the creatures were really, I gotta hand it to whoever is behind the creature effects. If it was, like I said, if it was practical effects with models and animatronics, or was it CGI? They didn't feel like CGI to me. They looked like they were, practical, and it was mechanical and robotics and stuff like that. But it could have been CGI, because sometimes CGI could be great, and but you can tell sometimes when it's CGI. Maybe it's a combination of all of that. But I really, really like that. And of course, Emily Blunt. She's one of the actresses that I like to see in film. I mean, think about it. She was Mary Poppins for God's sake. And then here she is in this film. She does different movies and different roles, and that's what keeps her, relevant, because she's not doing one role and that's it, and then people get tired of her and tired of that actor or that actress. She's very, very versatile. Just like Robert Downey Jr., he's very versatile. He's doing Doolittle, something definitely, because he's no longer going to be Captain, not Captain, but Iron Man. I believe he's going to be in the it's a Black Widow movie. That's what I hear, but we gotta wait and see that. But anyway, that's my review, like I said before, and my thoughts. And for those of you who stopped by and checked out this video, I appreciate it very much. And in closing, and as always, take care.